I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks for joining us here on Closing Arguments. I have to do it. I have to do it. I've got to do my job, okay? I've got to do my job. I've apologized many times this week already. I've apologized on social media, but I got to talk about her. Got to talk about Casey Anthony. Because there could potentially be a lawsuit against her. Hear me out. Now, Casey Anthony's attorney, Jose Baez, told the jury that his client, we know who she is, was molested by her father and her brother as a child. And now, 11 years after she was acquitted of murdering her daughter, Casey addressed the same accusations in the Peacock docuseries, Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies.
When I was 8 years old, my father started to come into my room at night. I was physically hurt, scared because I was physically hurt, and I can't tell mommy what happened. She'll get mad at me. That's what I was told. With my father, the abuse one day just stopped, just before my 12th birthday. My brother started coming in shortly after I turned 12. And it stopped around the time I turned 15. Wasn't the same thing that happened with my father. My brother never raped me. No, absolutely not. But it was close enough. Close enough where there was a pattern.
But you did tell your mom about Lee.
I did not.
That music. Don't be influenced by the music, please. Now, later on in the docuseries, Casey Anthony refers to a comment her father made at Kaylee's funeral and goes on to suggest that her father is a pedophile.
Kaylee Marie Anthony, who not only meant the world to me, but meant the world to my family, and so many of you that never got a chance to actually hug her, smell her hair, smell the sweet sweat when she came in from outside.
Are you kidding?
To hear her call me JoJo, I missed that kiss on the cheek, that special hug that I tell everyone, it's so great to get a hug from someone, but to get a hug from a small child, that gives me energy like you couldn't imagine.
That's not normal. Nothing about that is normal. You're outright telling the world that you're a pedophile.
Now, in other parts of the docu-series, if you watch it, I binged it, I told you I did it last week, there's sort of this overall theme throughout, and really coming through the words of Casey Anthony herself, that what really happened to her daughter was Casey fell asleep, and then her father shows up with little Kaylee and says, don't worry, everything will be all right, and then disappears with her, and then she's found dead in the woods. And then her and her investigator talk about, he must have smothered her. Very possible. And he smothered her after he's trying to molest her as well, because as she's accusing him, he's a pedophile. So with that in mind, a lot of people are like, this is outrageous. You got to do something about it. Can't you do something about this, George? So if it's not true, and I'm starting with this premise, that those allegations are not true, that George Anthony didn't molest and murder his granddaughter, George Anthony didn't molest and rape his daughter, if those things are not true, could George Anthony sue his daughter, Casey Anthony, for defamation? So we were talking about this, and I'm like, well, there's only one way to find out. Do we know anyone who knows anything about defamation cases? Is there someone out there, and we're like, where? We need somebody, we need a heavy hitter. We need like someone who could win a big case like that. You know who I'm talking about. Joining me tonight, Washington, D.C., trial attorney, partner with Brown Rudnick, LLP, and the lead attorney who represented Johnny Depp during his successful defamation case, Ben Chu, back with us. Ben, great to see you.
Great to see you, Vinny. Thank you for having me on again.
All right, so I want to walk through this whole process with you because and I'm serious about this potential, because a lot of people are talking about a potential suit here. If someone like George Anthony was going to bring a lawsuit like this, he'd have to go see an attorney like you. How does an attorney who represents people claiming defamation, how do you sort of vet the case? Like, what makes you take the case versus not take a case like this? What would a defamation attorney, what would the meeting be like with the client? What would you discuss, and what would be some of the factors that you would take into account here?
Well, Vinny, as you know, and you're assuming truth, but truth is always a defense in any defamation case. So due diligence on that point, i.e. whether the allegations are true, has to be done, and has to be done extensively, more so than in a general commercial case, because the attorney has to be as sure as he or she can be that the allegations are false before he would take the case or advise the client to proceed. And then you go on to other factors we can discuss.
Go ahead. What are some of the other factors you're going to take a look at there?
Well, the other factors you would discuss are whether these are allegations of fact or allegations of opinion, which aren't, as you know, allegations of opinion are not actionable. In this case, I think you clear that hurdle, because the accusation of being a pederast, it's a pretty clear allegation. It's an allegation of a crime, and it's a crime so heinous in our society, or really any society, that it is considered defamation per se. So the damages to the plaintiff, again, under your hypothesis, assuming the falsity of the allegations, this is a particularly heightened form of defamation per se. But there's another factor I think you're going to get at, and I shouldn't anticipate your questions because I'm not that smart. But another factor you always consider, and it was relevant in the Depp case as well, is you consider whether the potential defendant, as a practical matter, would have the means to satisfy any judgment.
So let me ask you this. Before we get to the money aspect of it, do you ever look at the person making the statement? So say, hypothetically, the person is a convicted liar, right? Someone who's an admitted liar, someone who made an entire documentary talking about how she lied, someone who was convicted in court of lying. Does that come into play as well in evaluating the strength of your case if you're accusing a convicted liar of defamation?
Absolutely, Vinny, and I should have said that you consider the credibility and the record of both the plaintiff and the defendant. And in this case, as you point out, though she was acquitted of the murder back in 2011, she was convicted of 4 counts of giving false information to law enforcement. And as a matter, although some statements were made by her counsel, it's very clear that she changed her story about how Kaylee, came to be murdered. It's outrageous.
Changed it a bunch of times. So explain to folks how this would go down. We all watched Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard, so if it's George Anthony versus Casey Anthony, we'll talk about Peacock in a moment, but if it's George Anthony versus Casey Anthony facing off, she'd have to testify. And if she's accusing him of being responsible for the death of her daughter, can you put her on the stand and question her about her role potentially in the death of her daughter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You would put her on in deposition, of course, before you put her on a trial, and you would walk her through every false statement that she's made, every contradictory statement. She could always take the fifth.
Wait, let me ask you about that. Can she take the fifth if she's been criminally acquitted of the murder?
That's as always, you ask the best question. And if she faces if any further charge would constitute double jeopardy, then George's lawyer could say there's that she's not entitled to take the fifth, and that would be resolved by the judge. But I think George's lawyer would have a very strong argument that the fifth would not be available to her, unless I suppose she could make a creative argument about potential perjury convictions, new perjury convictions. But in any event, however she tries to get unwound from that particular axle, I think you would have all of that in the form of testimony. And I think she would just be in a very, very difficult place were she to be a defendant in a defamation case.
And my belief, that case would be perhaps even more revealing than the criminal trial was.
Yes, it would, because their discovery in the civil context, as you know, is a very broad standard. Anything reasonably calculated to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence. And because these particular defamatory statements go right to the heart of what happened to Kaylee and what allegedly happened to Casey, all of this would be fair game. This would be a disaster for Casey Anthony. And, opening up this can of worms by doing this docuseries really would not have been something any attorney would have advised.
Yeah, and the one question that has been answered there, I haven't heard it anywhere, is whether or not she got paid. I'm presuming there was some payment either for her interviews, her participation, or some pictures or whatever that she may have provided, but I don't know. She may not have been paid for the whole thing. All right, so let's get back to that other statement where you were talking about money, which is, if an attorney's going to take a case, there's got to be, some way to satisfy a potential judgment. I don't know if she has two nickels to rub together. She may have a few dollars here and there, but nothing substantial. But this was a docuseries that was produced by someone. It was placed onto a streaming service. If, and again, this is the big if these statements are not true, would they be potential defendants in the case as well? Would it be, who could be on the hook?
Yes, that's where you would probably go. And again, assuming that she is judgment proof, which is an assumption, but not an unreasonable one, unless she was paid a lot for this docuseries, then I think you would have to look for a deep pocket. And the deep pocket could be the producers of the docuseries, who could be brought in as defendants. Publications, producers of these things are brought in all the time. Standards are somewhat different, but yes, I think if you were to proceed on behalf of George, I think you would have to advise George that you would want to be looking potentially at the producers of the docuseries as potential defendants.
Yeah, and this is a pipe dream of mine, but I don't think it'll happen, that if the case is brought, that it's just George versus Casey, and he's doing it not so much for the money, but to clear his name. And that would take an incredible sacrifice by attorneys to do that for like free, pretty much, because I don't think, again, she doesn't have any money. But incredible insight on this Friday night. Ben Chu, folks, you know him very well, and we thank you so much for joining us and clarifying this situation for us. Have a great night, Ben.
Thanks, Vinny. Pleasure. Thank you.
All right.